Ladies and gentlemen, it's player profile time. And I thought we would do the winner of the PFA Awards. It's Ryan Joseph Giggs, OBE.
Oh, come on.
Don't clap, he's not in yet.
Yeah, I'm just
A
clapping
little bit
him.
of appreciation for that.
Fair enough, yeah.
Hey,
He's a legend.
exactly.
Legend.
Exactly.
Legend.
One of 4 players that have played in every season of the Premier League.
Nicky Butt, Sol Campbell, David James.
Nicky Butt's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah. He only played 1 game in his first season, I think.
But he counts.
Still counts, it's in there.
Yeah.
Chalk it up.
That's right, yeah. Ryan Giggs, he was obviously born in Wales, but when he was 6 years old, he moved to Manchester. Interestingly enough, it's worth to note that Giggs is actually mixed race because his grandfather is from the Sierra Leone, and he has spoken of racism he faced as a child.
That's incredible, isn't
You
it?
never think of him as being anything other than white.
I'd heard that he was mixed race, but I just thought, is that just made up?
It's weird about people's perceptions, isn't it?
Yeah. After moving to Manchester, Giggs played for a local team called Deans FC, who were coached by a Manchester City scout called Dennis Schofield. And he recommended Giggs to Man City, and he was signed to the City School of Excellence.
Okay.
He continued to... Giggs was also playing for Salford Boys. So while he was playing for Deans FC, Giggs was regularly watched by an Old Trafford steward called Harold Wood.
Sounds a bit sinister, that.
It's nothing vicious.
And Wood would tell the senior staff at Manchester United about Giggs all the time. But nothing happened until Wood managed to speak personally to Alex Ferguson, and so Ferguson sent a scout to watch Giggs play, and the scout was so impressed by Giggs that he was offered a trial, and that was and nearly a year later, Giggs on his 14th birthday, Ferguson turned up at his house with the scout and offered him 2 years on schoolboy forms.
Not a bad birthday.
Exactly. So Giggs also represented England at schoolboy level. Now this is often where the confusion lies. People say, "Oh, Giggs could have played for England." No, he couldn't have played for England.
Yeah.
He played at England's schoolboy level.
Statistically, some of you will have said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're wrong.
Yeah.
So
And we're never wrong.
no.
Except when we cut those bits out.
Apart from a couple of times.
Sometimes we don't.
And we've been caught out.
We've done it many times tonight already.
Laurie McMenemy was coach of the England under-21 team and at the time, and he checked to see whether Giggs was eligible to play for England, but he wasn't. That's where it stopped there.
Yeah. So leave it.
Exactly.
Even if you could go back, which you can't.
And he became a first-team regular in the 91-92 season. Although he was still involved in the youth setup as well, and they won the FA Youth Cup in 1992. He played up front with Robbie Savage in that team.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they
I knew
had
Savage
similar
was at
career
United,
paths.
yeah.
Robbie Savage always goes on about that team, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like that's like his Champions
Didn't
League
really get any
win.
better.
Well, look where they both are now, James.
Yeah.
One's on top of the Premier.
That's exactly what I'm implying.
Yeah. So, by the start of the 92-93 season, Giggs was very much established as United's first-choice left winger. But Ferguson was very protective of him and refused to allow Giggs to be interviewed until he turned 20 years old. But it's definitely worth...
Now he's refusing to be interviewed himself, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Giggs, I mean... I kind of, in a weird way, forgot this, but he really was the first kind of a new...
Poster boy of the Premier League.
Yeah,
wasn't
of a
he?
new era,
He was-
a real superstar.
Yeah.
He was massive. I remember in my,
Yeah.
I think I'm 74, in my school library, the only sort of interesting books, apart from the Asterix books, was like a picture book of Ryan Giggs. And it was him going, "Hello, I'm Ryan Giggs," blah, blah, blah. And there was a really, really close-up picture of his feet. And I remember looking at his toes and going, "God, they're hairy toes." And so I always associated Ryan Giggs with having very hairy
A
toes.
delightful insight into the mind of a complete maniac.
And years later, we found out that he had a very hairy chest.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's a friend of the show, Giggs, lest we forget.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is.
He
Hello,
is.
I'm Ryan Giggs and you're listening to the Football Ramble. You remember that? Because I do.
He only
I
sounded
do.
so sad because, you know, he wasn't in the Dean Windass Hall of Fame yet. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd be delighted if we catch up with him again.
Wipe your tear.
Ex-boyfriend of Danny Bear as well.
Yeah,
Well, no, you're right. He was a proper pin-up, wasn't he? Like, I remember teenage girls loved him
Yeah.
at the time. Like, he was a real sort of,
Yeah.
like, proper kind of celebrity.
Teenage boys were pervy on his toes. Weren't they? Eh?
You really put one in my mouth.
Yeah. He had admirers from all
Can I
quarters.
touch your toes?
Strange Geordie men looking at his toes. A man-child,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
he was then.
He also had his own television
Rather than
show.
a child man, as you are now.
He also had his own television show, Ryan Giggs Soccer Skills, which was around 94, I think. But
bet that was
he
good.
was huge, as you say. He was the kind of the real kind of
was Beckham-esque, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Oh, it's Beckham before Beckham, as you said, Marcus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it was a real new era for football. It was suddenly he was the first kind of, if you like, glamorous player for a little while, I think. And as you sort of said, Pete, all these picture books and pin-ups. The girls loved him as well.
He was always in the. It was always in like Shoot magazine posters of
Match.
Like that. Yeah, Match.
So, absolutely was, and he won Young Player of the Year a couple of times. PFA Young Player of the Year. He was also, for me, a part of that magnificent. Well, not for me. He was a part of that magnificent midfield of.
But I think I
Beckham,
speak for all of us when
Scholes.
it felt like it was personal to you.
Yes, absolutely. You could identify with at least one of them.
You can stick your neck out and say that's probably arguably the best midfield in Premier League history.
Yeah, possibly, and of course he won the treble in the '99 season because he's never played for another club, so he was definitely still there.
Yeah,
and scored that magnificent goal against Arsenal.
Didn't he?
What year was that?
99.
FA Cup.
99, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, was it that long ago?
That's when we saw his hairy chest.
Oh, okay, right.
Thing of beauty.
No, I think I remember Giggs as being a really devastating. I mean, people were talking about him as the next George Best, all sorts of things like that as well.
Yeah.
And he used to terrorise defences, in his pomp. And whilst he's lost a bit of his pace now, I really admire the way he's adapted himself as a player to be more of a creative, sort of thinking man's player.
Well, he was always a very intelligent player, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a sign of a real good footballer's brain. You can do that when you've sort of not got the pace you once did.
You have to adapt, don't you?
Absolutely.
I think it's really nice to see because he used to just be a flat-out pace man on the wing and whip accurate crosses in, but he's got more to his game than that. And I think that's probably a secret to his longevity and the fact that he's looked after himself well, stuff like that as well. And he really has at club level won everything the game's had to offer. I mean, many times over, hasn't he? So.
And there was a long period of time when England in particular didn't have a left winger at all.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, if only.
Yeah,
It was
that's
a
probably when those things
solid.
come about
Yeah,
being able to play for
definitely.
England and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, even recently when there was talk of a Great Britain team for the Olympics, like the Sun put together a team, which was just England with Giggs on the left. It's like, this team wouldn't be eligible for like a million different reasons, but just imagine it.
But it was funny, wasn't it, when United had so many young players come through after him with talks about Beckham and Scholes and the Nevilles and Butt and so on.
Because Giggs was well established by that point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So it made him
Well,
seem a lot older than he was.
He was only really a season really in front of those guys, but very quickly. At a very young age, he became almost like one of the senior players, one of the experienced guys. He was when he was 28 years old, because he'd been so, in 2002, when he'd been around for so long, people thought, well, he's probably knocking on for retirement or something. He'd been around for that. I mean, he'd been around for 11 years, 17. He broke in on the. Do you remember, you talked about, George Best and so, do you remember that advert he was in, the Reebok advert?
Yeah.
And the greatest team in the world. And Giggs would be in it, and he'd be in Reebok boots. Remember that one? They doctored it when it was him, Charlton, and Dennis Law.
Yeah, Law was involved.
I remember
There was also another one he did where he went to a girl out for a date, so they get a new pair of Reebok boots.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember that one? And the other one was Schmeichel being a pig farmer and stuff.
Yeah,
that was also good. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He scored over 100 league goals for Manchester United, and he's the only player to have scored in every single year the Premiership's been going, which is an incredible
Well, you
achievement.
can't argue with that, really, can you?
No. Well, because it's a fact. Giggs broke Bobby Charlton's appearance record for United when he came on in the Champions League final against Chelsea. That's a time to break a record, isn't it?
Do you reckon he gave Bobby Charlton the wink and the go in the crowd as he came on? Yeah.
I can only
This will
hope.
test you.
He joined an elite little group with Steve McManaman and Owen Hargreaves in becoming the only British players to have played in and won more than Champions
Champions League medal.
Champions League final. So, but as you said, Luke, nowadays he plays in a more deeper midfield role. He's obviously not got the explosive pace, but he's adapted very well to that.
Yeah.
He's been taking his coaching badges as Giggs, and Ferguson has hinted that he would like Giggs to serve in the coaching staff after he retires.
I wonder how you hint that.
Sorry?
I wonder how you hint that.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Yeah. We'll ask Ryan next season what he thinks of the youth setup thing.
How's he hint at it? Oh, well, I think you'd be a good coach, wouldn't you?
And maybe you should do your badges.
And you like Manchester United, don't you?
Well, move on to his international career.
Did he win the World Cup?
He never won the World Cup, and he never even came remotely close to such a feat. He played.
Leave his feet out of it.
You're getting me all frothy.
Such a hairy feat. But, he's played 64 times for Wales and scored 12 goals. He used to get a bit of criticism for playing for
being
or
Welsh.
for not playing for Wales, because remember he went years without playing a friendly.
Yes.
Right, yeah. But it was... How many years was it? Do you know? Because it was ridiculous, wasn't it? Was it about 7 years? Or
9 years.
9 years.
I think I'll refrain from saying that it was poor form, because this is the profile, and he's coming into the Dean Windass Hall of Fame, and we thank him for it. But ordinarily, I'll be having a pop right now.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So what did he say? He just said he wasn't going to play.
I think Ferguson was a little bit overprotective, and I think Ryan Giggs probably wasn't that
He
bothered.
hinted that he might have a knock.
Yeah.
You can't play. Why not? You got
Well,
a
if he plays, he might then get a knock afterwards.
Exactly.
But in recent years, Giggs, and this again adds to his magnificent character, has become a UNICEF representative, and launching a campaign in 2002 to prevent landmines from killing children.
Nothing funny about that.
No.
So,
I think all joking aside, I think that's a magnificent thing, and well done to him. So, am I right in saying he's won 10 Premier Leagues, 4 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, 7 Charity Shields, 2 Champions Leagues, a Super Cup, an Intercontinental Cup, and a World Club Cup?
Do you know what the most impressive
Not
of that
bad.
is? 7 Charity Shields.
Yeah, do you know? Only David Nugent is more decorated.
Sorry.
Yeah, you heard me.
Utterly irrelevant.
The Nuge is always relevant.
Anyway, I shall end with a quote. This was in an article by BBC Sport. It says, in the early 1990s, Giggs was David Beckham, before Beckham was even holding down a place in the United first team. If you put his face on the cover of a football magazine, it guaranteed you the biggest sales of the year. Why? Men would want to buy it to read about the new best, and girls bought it because they wanted his face all over their bedroom walls. Giggs had a multi-million-pound boot deal, lucrative sponsorship deals in the Far East, and the celebrity girlfriends, at a time when David Beckham was being sent on loan to Preston North End. Ryan Giggs, in you come. And as you come in, you can take your shirt off. All right?
Well done, Giggsy.